Hey paper crafters, thank you so much for joining me today. I love that you took the time to pop by my channel, check out the video that I've got going, and hopefully stay and poke around a little bit. I'm really excited to be able to offer some videos now and then and share my love of paper crafting. So I hope you find something that you enjoy and come back to see me another time. Bye-bye. Hey paper crafting friends, thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to give you a quick preview of the palette that I am going to be using as I work on this month's Kiwi Club Kit. So this is the February 2021 collaboration, and this kit is so pretty, and I had a great time just choosing what I was going to work with. So I've got a couple of sentiment cards here that I'm thinking I'm going to pull in. Okay, and all of these have these darling little blossoms on them, and they bring in this really beautiful pink that I really like. It's kind of a deep coral pink color. So had to pick this piece, right? Because these just coordinate beautifully with that. And then I went ahead and just found a range of the other colors that are really represented here. So I've heard a lot of people lately saying, gosh, I'm having a really hard time choosing papers. So I guess my biggest tip always is find that dominant print first. And so for me, the dominant print is this. It's busy, it's bold, and you're not going to have a bunch of dominant prints like this. And then you've got to look and find your complementary pieces. So all of these are going to go really well to bring out the colors in here. Some are more subtle, some are a little brighter. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to get a design laid out, and I will pop back on and share that with you before I really make any solid choices about what I'm going to do with the papers. Okay, so should be a fun one, and I am excited. Just a reminder that this particular video is part of a February collaboration. There are other videos that are part of this collaboration as well. So take a look at the description box and make sure you check those out, okay? Comment on all of the videos so you have an opportunity to win a template set, and we will make sure that we show you some fun things, and I hope you have time to watch them all. Thanks so much again for joining us this month. All right, so I was able to go through and lay out a design that I am happy with and excited to share with you. I did take my inspiration from a page in this month's idea book. The idea is to inspire. You can actually get in there and get them out of the shop, whether you're a club member or not, which is kind of awesome. So I'm looking at this one here, and I am doing something similar, but then I'm changing kind of the photos and things that I'm going to be using today. So what I've got here is the new border that came with this month's club kit. So this one is called Garden Frills. So I've got the Garden Frills border, and right on top of that Garden Frills border layers Kiwi Lane. So Kiwi Lane 1A and 1B pair with this really beautifully. So I took the Kiwi Lane 1A and the matching Garden Frills border. It's here on this left side. And right underneath that, I'm going to use 3 4x6 photos. So I'm actually not even going to provide a backing for these. I'm going to leave it because what I'm imagining is 3 4x6 photos right next to each other. I am going to close them in with just a little strip. So I've got a 1/2 inch strip planned for right down here, just to border those. Okay. Up here at the top, I have this sweet pea template, and I'm going to use this to cut one of the sentiment cards and just create kind of a title right here on that border. I stuck the butterfly from Garden Frills, the Garden Frills set here, and I'll be using a bunch of the templates, the small ones that were included this month, to decorate along the edge of this. Okay. On this side, I pulled out this a la carte keepsake. This was a club template from, oh my gosh, quite a while back. So I'm going to use this. I'm not going to have it coming out this right side. It's here, but that's just because of the way I'm designing with it. I am just going to have it coming out this side. I decided rather than do what is shown in the Ideas to Inspire, which I think has 9 pictures on here, I went ahead and just went with 4 3x4s, but I am going to make one of them a journaling block. So I pulled out this Write It on Your Heart sentiment card, and I'm going to use it in place of one of the 3x4 photos. The others I'll go ahead and provide some photo mats here. Okay. This fun little swish comes from the Tiny Charmed set. So this is Tiny Charmed 8, and it's just going to be a cute little color accent. I'm picturing this being kind of a lighter, kind of a neutral color. I haven't made a complete decision yet, but I think that this will just be kind of a pop of maybe a darker pink, something like that. Okay. A couple other templates I pulled out of that Tiny Charmed set are this little tab. Okay, it's like a file folder tab. I'm imagining it over on this side. Kind of we'll see. And this is Tiny Charmed 6, and I want to go ahead and use this as well, just to highlight a photo. Okay. So the other templates that you can see here are others from the Garden Frills set that came in this month's club kit. So this little flower is Garden Frills 2, and it lines up really beautifully along the edge of this fun Garden Frills border. So I'm just imagining using some of those smaller flowers. This is the Garden Frills 4. It's a little bit bigger flower. Same thing. There's some great spots that are going to be perfect to use it and just leave a little shadow. And then the leaf here, this is Garden Frills 1. So that's just a fun little leaf that also works really well and can just be used and create a little shadow. I probably am not going to do so many pieces that I speak to every little bump on this Garden Frills border, but I definitely want to use some highlighting pieces and do some of it. I just think it's going to be beautiful. So hopefully this gives you an idea for how to lay this out. I am going to start making some paper choices and get busy with this. So I can't wait to see how it comes together. Just as an FYI, I did pull this background paper out of my stash. This is very similar to a piece that is provided with this month's club kit. But this paper is really beautiful. Like I said, the color I chose is super similar. The back side is this really gorgeous soft pink, and I decided that I did not want to use both of those background sheets right off the bat with this club kit. So that's why I went ahead and pulled something from my stash that's similar, but I think will complement really well with the different shades of pink and the blues that I'm going to use while I design this layout. So stay tuned and we'll see how it all comes together. All right, as I went to trace this Garden Frills, I wanted to make sure that I took a second to show you how much extra paper you're going to end up using if you absolutely cut the whole thing. So that is the size, hopefully you can see that edge, that is the size that it calls for when you cut that entire template. Now let's layer the piece that I'm going to put on top of it. Okay, so you see how much you're going to end up covering? It's a ton of it. So I am going to bring this down onto my paper where I'm going to be tracing it, and I just want to make sure that I don't have anything peeking through that lowest point so that I have a big enough piece. Okay, there I've got some peak, so I want to move that up a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and trace it so that when I cut this piece off, I'll be able to go ahead and just tuck it behind and position, you know, I can still position it so it looks exactly like it would if I cut the whole thing, but I just don't want to hide all that paper. One, it makes your layouts thicker than they need to be, and you're using paper that maybe you don't want to use. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're working with these layering templates, that you don't necessarily need the whole thing. So when I go to do this one, I'm going to go ahead and just butt it up against here as well. This is just going to be extra. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. If I do it this way, I may actually use a little less. Let me layer this and just make sure I get it right. Okay, so again, you want to make sure you're not getting more than you need. Yeah, so I can go ahead and do it this way, and then that scrap will just be my extra that's going to be left. So I just want to trace this real quick so I can show you the difference of how much paper I ended up using versus if I had done it the other way. All right, so that's going to give me what I need in that amount of space. That literally is less than it would have taken, or about what it would have taken to just do one side. If I had done them both using the entire template, it would have used far more than half that sheet of paper. Okay, so just something to keep in mind when you're working with these layering templates. All right, so here we go. I had so much fun putting this together and choosing the colors. It is really a beautiful layout. I'm going to go ahead and pull pieces in kind of one at a time and show you how it came together. So here's that garden frills behind the Kiwi Lane, and you can see from the back how I pieced that. So you had an opportunity to watch me get that traced. So there's that. I'm not going to show any mats or anything for this section because I am just leaving that spaced appropriately for 3 4x6 photos. Okay. Here's the garden frills for the other side with the other Kiwi Lane. And the back of that one's kind of funny, but that's how it turned out. Okay. When I went to cut this keepsake a la carte, I had a full sheet of paper, okay, like this. And what I did, I knew how much of this I needed. So I went ahead and just scooted the template straight up against a straight edge of the paper so that I could trace it and cut just the piece I needed and still have the maximum amount left. Okay, so that one, I'm gonna need this. Kind of just butts right up against that. It can just tuck slightly under, okay. Then I had the photo mats to complete this piece. So these are 3x4, and I went ahead and made these out of that same kind of medium pink tone that's here. Most of this color is going to be covered up by the pieces that I'm going to put on here, so I wanted to go ahead and just bring a little bit more of that in. Okay. I love this spot of the darker pink, so I went ahead and cut some of the other pieces, kind of accent pieces, in that darker pink so that I could carry that across the layout into a couple more places. So I used it here, here, and here. Okay. There's also going to be some spots of it along the borders because I used it for one of the small pieces. Then I did that for the title. Okay, so this is how it is so far. And then I had the really fun task of figuring out what I was going to do along this edge and how many pieces I was going to need. So when the first time you look at it, it really does feel a little bit intimidating. So I will tell you, I grabbed like this garden frills for this larger flower, and I just looked for places that it was going to fit. So I had one. This was a little different, and I'll show you why in a second. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, again a little different, 5, 6. So I went ahead and made 6 of those flowers. I just traced and cut them all at the same time. It went pretty fast. Once I cut these, I just used my finger, 1 finger on the top, 2 on the bottom, and just gave it a little bit of texture on the edge, okay? I also, I don't know if you can see, I used a shimmer brush just to do a quick little line on each one of the flowers, just to give it a little bit of added interest. So of course, these are gorgeous as they are, but it never hurts, in my opinion, to add a little extra bling. So there we go. So the idea of these when you put them on is to leave that background poking just a little bit. It's almost like a shadow, kind of like when you're matting a photo. Just leave a little bit of the edge poking out, and it really creates this beautiful effect, okay? This other shape is really meant for the heart from Tiny Charmed. The funny thing is, when I went to go use my heart from Tiny Charmed, it wasn't there. So I ended up using the wings from the butterfly in Tiny Charmed, and I just recreated the heart. So hopefully I'm going to add that one to my template set. Somewhere along the line, that one didn't make it home, probably from a crop or something. So there's a heart there and a heart here. I went ahead and used some scraps from when I cut this out, because I just kind of liked that lighter color, and I was thinking about how this little heart is outlined in the light, and I just wanted to carry that idea. All right, then there's a whole bunch of leaves, and what I realized is some go one way and some are actually traced on the opposite. So I did the same thing. I just sat here with this little template, and I was like, so I need an upside down one, and I just went through and checked these pieces to see what I had and what I was going to need. So when I cut these, some were a front trace, some were a back trace, and all I've done is cut them and ink them, and then I used a tiny bit of this liquid pearls to just do the line that is actually on the template. So that little tiny template, you can see it's got a little line there to separate the leaves. I just drew that on. Again, tiny bit of added detail, and these just kind of plug in all over the place. So things are going to shift as I lay things out, so forgive me for that. But really had fun making these. And I think that if you just kind of count them out and figure out what you're going to need, it actually goes pretty fast. Just trace and cut all of them at the same time. You could really fall into a serious time vacuum with this if you don't find a way to do it a little bit more efficiently. I cannot remember. I think this one went this way. I don't know, something like that. All right, so then I did these small flowers out of a little bit darker pink. This is the same pink that I used for these pops. And when I go to attach these, I probably am going to have them be something that's adhered all the way down versus being something that's popped up. So I want them to be featured, yes, but because they're that dark pop, I just want them to show a bit, not be like the star, okay? So they definitely have a way that they fit the best. You just kind of keep rotating them around. I had one more over here. Okay, then the last of the pieces were these butterflies. So for these butterflies, I went ahead and figured out which ones were going to go which direction. They're just cut out of the back side of a sentiment card that I'm not going to use, okay? So I was able to get kind of a complementary yellow, but it's a little bit deeper. So I like that. I did a little bit of drawing on there with a shimmer pen, and then did a little bit of the liquid pearl. So that's going to go there. Butterflies will definitely be on top. Okay, so they will be put on with foam tape so that they are elevated. And I'm going to do one over here. Okay, so the only thing that's left then is just a tiny bit of embellishing. And I took the opposite side of this. Let me just show you. It's got some little, it's like yellow with white flowers on it. I used that scrap and I cut some pieces, some just with a straight circle punch, just a real small little circle punch, and then some with a scalloped edge I cut with an old Epiphany Crafts punch. Okay, so I'm gonna use those for flower centers for these larger flowers. And I just decided I'd do a couple of the bigger ones, and then most of them are gonna have the smaller. Okay. And that template is actually created with a circle in the middle if you want to trace and cut that. But I would say if you have a circle punch, obviously that's going to be a little bit faster. Okay, the last thing that I am adding are some Prima flowers. This is a really teeny tiny Prima flower. There's 80 of them in the package. They are just a little white paper flower with like a copper or antique gold, antique brass, whatever that would be called, a little bead in the center. And these are going to go right in the middle of every flower just to add a little bit of lightness. I feel like this layout is a lot of really beautiful colors, but I wanted to just brighten it up a bit. So you got the white here and then the lighter color of this and this. But I think that these little pops just add a lot. I'm going to put those on each one of the flowers. I saw someone post a layout on the Kiwi Lane Facebook group, and they said it was 6 hours of fussy cutting. That was not my experience. I am currently rewatching the Grey's Anatomy series on Netflix. I think it probably was an episode, maybe an episode and a half that I sat and traced and cut and inked all of these little pieces. So it probably was about an hour of fussy cutting, but I would say it wasn't any longer than that. So I enjoy that kind of work. Couple of tips. When you're working with this one, I would not worry about these little dip-ins right away. I did a rough cut of the whole piece that I had traced them on first. Then I did a rough cut to cut them apart. And I did all around as though I was just cutting a regular flower first. And then I went and just did a quick snip in with my scissors to get these little notches cut. So there are definitely ways to speed the process up. I would just recommend seeing how many you need, trace, get them all traced, and then just sit down and have a cutting session. So I hope that you guys are excited to see this come together. I hope it gets you to get your kit out and get busy. And as always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And if there are things that you'd like to see me do in the future, I'd love to know. So I hope that you're having a great day, whatever you're doing, and I will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in today. Bye-bye.